What is the worst way to die? Is it drowning, choking, or being burned alive? Now, imagine all three happening at the same time while you are standing knee-deep in a freezing swamp made of your dead friends. Welcome to Verdun. In 1916, a French soldier standing in a trench didn't need a bullet to die. He simply needed to stand still. The hills of Verdun were not just a battlefield, they were a machine designed to grind a man down until he was no longer a person, but a geological layer. The geography of France was murdered here. Forests became a gray moonscape of overlapping craters. The sun was a sickly ghost hidden behind smoke. And the men? They became creatures of the subsoil. There were no horizons, only the crumbling walls of a ditch. There were no seasons, only the varying temperatures of the filth you knelt in. You became a ghost before you ever died. Rotting from the ground up. But let's talk about the mud. When you think of mud, you think of dirt and water. The mud of Verdun was a hungry soup. It was pulverized brick, rotted timber, and the forgotten remains of the men who stood there last week. It was knee-deep, freezing, and possessive. Every step was a battle against a vacuum that wanted to suck the boots off your feet. You stood in it for days until the cold stopped being a sensation and became a weight in your bones. And then the horror began. They call it trench foot, but that's a clean name for a dirty process. First, your feet go numb and turn a waxy white. Then they swell. But because your feet are never dry, the skin starts to die while you are still wearing it. Imagine peeling off your sock and watching your flesh come away with it in great weeping sheets. Underneath, raw, pulsing nerves. Your boots fill with exudate, that foul fluid of inflammation. They slosh when you walk. The smell was like a butcher's shop left out in the rain, sweet, cloying, infected. You weren't standing in the mud anymore. You were dissolving into it. You were rotting from the ground up. The true owners of the trenches. In this hierarchy of suffering, where were you on the food chain? At the very bottom. The true masters of Verdun were the rats. Not the small, scared rats of the city. These were corpse rats, bloated, bold, the size of small cats. They were the only winners of the war. They scurried over your face while you tried to sleep. You heard them in the dark, fighting over scraps. But they didn't just want your bread. A soldier once watched a gray male, its belly dragging in the muck, gnaw through a dead man's haversack. It wasn't going for the food, it was going for the man. They had lost all fear of the living because they had seen so much of the dead. They watched you with black, glittering eyes, waiting for the moment you stopped moving. They were thriving on the very thing that was destroying you. The yellow cloud. But the mud and the rats were slow killers. The real terror came on the wind. Imagine you are standing in that freezing filth. You smell something strange. It cuts through the stench of rot. It smells like bleach, like a swimming pool, a clean scent in a world of shit. Then you see it, a yellow-green cloud rolling off the lip of the trench. It hugs the ground like a living fog. It seeks you out. Your fingers are frozen, slick with mud. You fumble for your mask. You hear the man next to you, the desperate, ragged sobbing of his breath as he fights his own straps. You get your mask on. You look through the scratched eyepieces. You see him. He was too slow. His eyes meet yours, wide, bulging. He is already clawing at his throat. His fingernails are tearing furrows into his own neck. Why? Because the gas isn't just choking him, it's a chemical fire. It reacts with the moisture in his throat, turning into hydrochloric acid. Inside his chest, his lungs are becoming a bloody mess. He is drowning, but there is no water. He is drowning in his own liquefied organs. You hear the wet, bubbling rattle of his final breaths through your filter. The sweet iron tang of his blood fills the air. He dies in a silent spasm, reduced to a sanguine slurry by the yellow cloud. The finality of iron. And then there is the final level, the one you can't survive, the artillery. You learn to live with the constant hammering, but there is one sound you never hear, the one that kills you, a direct hit. There is no time for a thought, no space for a prayer. In 1 millisecond, you exist. In the next, you are deleted. A heavy shell landing in a trench doesn't just kill you, it atomizes you. It vaporizes the wood, the wire, and the man, mixing them all into a single charred crater. No body, no grave, no name. The randomness is the ultimate insult. It doesn't matter if you were a coward or a saint. When the iron finds you, you are simply erased from existence. Nothing but a flash of fire and a hole that the next rain will fill. Verdun was not a battle. It was a process of total dehumanization. It turned men into mud and names into silence. Hundreds of thousands remain there still, woven into the clay of the muse. The mud has no memory. It only has hunger. If you want to keep walking through the dark corners of history with me, hit that subscribe button. We go into the mud so you don't have to.